Good afternoon, everyone. We are here live at a watch party at the African American Lodge 24. So we have a few things going on. So forgive me for being a little bit, having a little bit of a different start than we normally do. But welcome to our Black Philanthropy Month 2025 collaboration. This is a collaboration of a number of community foundations. So we've got the Community Foundation, Connecticut Community Foundation, Fairfield County Community Foundation, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, the Prosperity Foundation, and the Greater New Haven, the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. There's a few housekeeping rules that I just want to go over. Number one, all of your questions can go in the Q&A section because we are going to have a very robust conversation today. And so feel free to put any questions that you might have in the Q&A section. Also, your camera will be muted. Any background noise or anything like that, feel free to have conversations, live, robust conversations about this because you will be muted as well as everyone else. We're excited for today. We welcome you on behalf of all of the presidents and CEOs of the various foundations, and you'll see a slide with all of their beautiful faces. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator who will mention our presidents and who will take the conversation further. So I turn this program over now to the fabulous Dr. Leon Bailey Jr. Thank you.
So just to acknowledge and honor the presidents and CEOs of our foundations that are participating and supporting this event, we have Karen Du Bois Walton, Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, Mindy Blue Paca, President CEO, Fairfield County's Community Foundation, Jay Williams, President CEO, Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, Shari Chester Anderson, Chief Executive Officer, the Prosperity Foundation, and Kathy Taylor, President and CEO, Connecticut's Community Foundation. And now I'd like to introduce our spoken word artist who will actually set the tone for our event, Nadia Sims.
Hello, everyone. This poem is called Remember, Reclaim, Rise Across Connecticut. See, we've forgotten how to wade in the water. We are so lost in the shuffle, we cannot move. Tugged in two directions, pulled towards a whisper, a hint of heritage too rich to conceptualize, wrapped in royalty but handed down in rags. We claim kings we cannot name, while standing in the quicksand of this land softened by our blood, our ashes. Overgrown roots too firmly entrenched to be left behind or forgotten. See, strange fruit fed us, and yet the internet would have us forget. Question the existence, the resistance, the resilience of those who came before. See, we've forgotten the village, the neighborhood, the community, the design on a dime, rent parties, each one teaches one mentality, the collage of hand games and handshakes, stories of old retold. It is the betrayal of a draw four during Uno. It is pots cooked with love and no measurements. It's a pinch of soul and a dash of intuition. It's the paper plate and everything touching. It's the talk, the cackle, the seasonings, the shade, the angels, the babies, the barbershop and hair salon, the lack of chairs. You know she don't like people in her house. Slide, this my song. Slide, right foot, left stomp. Slide, they got watermelon. Slide, who made the potato salad? Slide, my family. Slide, my people. Slide, my culture. Slide, we're still here. Slide, I'm still here. Happiness after heartbreak, still here. Grace amidst the chaos. It is heavy hands on my tender scalp and an exclamation of, girl, you can't be tender-headed. When girl, you can't be tender-headed was advice straight from the ancestors for life. That the map to freedom was braided on my scalp, commandments for the journey learned on a pillow in a living room with days of our lives in the background. 1, keep your head up. Do not bow for pain. Suffering should never be conveyed to someone with their hands close to your mind. 2, Don't be tender-headed. Don't run from the process. Freedom is a birth, and birth is painful for everyone involved. Keep still and know on the other side of this pain is the reward of walking assured in the past others have paid before you. Singing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, songs that say, I remember. I remember the way home, the village, the block, the fight, the loss, the yearning, the desire, the love. I remember the fire from the riots and the hunts. I was there with Harriet navigating the stars. I was there on the plantation. I soothed those babies and thumped those Bibles. Songs that say, I remember the marches of bands and militia, percussion of feet on pavement in Montgomery and Ferguson, passed down hand claps, tapped on toes. My mama, your mama live across the street. Music that remembers how to rise and overcome, declaring to the people, I remember sweat on brow, on chest, on hips, moving, 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 taking back the narrative, taking back the joy, taking back the freedom, rename survival into healing, reclaim escape as genius, change it black, change it brown, transform it from magical into law, that we are not hidden, we are covered. We are not forgotten. We are befriended and beloved. Reclaim the community. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's helper. I am resource and resistance, history and narrative, heart and soul. The great lie of isolation must die. Change it black, change it brown. Reimagine life in chocolate-covered joy. Call into the void and be answered by the ancestors. Change it black, change it brown. Turn power into a portal and pull these shores together. Bring us home, we cry, and history says, I'll take you. Bring us home, we cry, and the community says, I'll carry you. Bring us home, we cry, and we must say to each other, I am here. I got you. Welcome home. Thank you.
Oh, I just feel the presence of the power. Nadia Sims, God bless you. You have just brought it, girl. You have set the tone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My name is Leon Bailey. I'm Senior Vice President for Human Resources and Organizational Culture at the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. And it's my honor and privilege to moderate this panel, but also to present to you an opportunity to actually step into a new consciousness. Maybe not new for some, new for others, but an experience that will be newly created in this moment. We are so proud to be able to present this and happy that you are a part of this process with us. The um, concept of Black Philanthropy Month was started by a woman by the name of Dr. Jacqueline Bouvier Copeland. And we've had the pleasure of having Dr. Copeland come to New Haven, work with us, consult with us on many different projects. And this is something she started in early 2000s, and it's still around today. And these concepts that are being presented today, Sankofa, looking back at what was left that we can bring forward to help us remember who we are. That's a theme that is being celebrated in all sorts of foundations and other gatherings across the country and throughout the diaspora. Because Dr. Copeland not only does work in the United States, but she has a foundation that serves Africa and other countries around the world. And so enough about me. Let me begin to just acknowledge and introduce our panelists, and I will give them a moment to introduce themselves. But we have Althea Marshall-Brooks from she's the Executive Director of Waterbury Bridge to Success Community Partnership. Julianne Foy, I'm sorry, Executive Director of the Odyssey Family Foundation Executive Director, and Rodney Hart, Deputy Director, Programs and Exhibitions, Amistad Center for Art and Culture. So let's start by having these folks introduce themselves. Althea, will you please?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here today and serving on this panel, especially celebrating Black philanthropy. As Dr. Bailey said, I am Althea Marshall Brooks, Executive Director for Waterbury Bridge to Success Community Partnership. We're a Cradle to Career initiative in the city of Waterbury, focused on health and educational equity across the city from cradle, from preconception to our seasoned residents. I am honored to serve on behalf of, as well, the Waterbury Black Giving Circle that was established about 3 years ago. The Waterbury Black Giving Circle is a network of individuals that came together to really pool their collective dollars to have a greater impact and make a difference in the Black community in the city of Waterbury. The Waterbury Black Giving Circle is a group of change makers, young, old, seasoned, in a variety of positions and roles throughout the city, who are really seeking to catalyze and sustain a movement toward greater economic opportunity for the Black community in the city of Waterbury. And our mission is to cultivate charitable giving within the Black community, build capacity of our Black leaders and our Black-led nonprofits. Really focusing on financial sustainability of those nonprofits, but most importantly, really address some of the most pressing needs facing the Black community in the city of Waterbury. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Althea, thank you for being here. Thanks for the introduction. Julie, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julianne Foy. I'm the Executive Director of the Odyssey Family Executive Center in Norwalk. It is truly an honor to be part of this panel and to be with everyone this afternoon. I still have chills from Nadia, so forgive me because she brought it. Just brought me way back. But I'm really excited to be a part and to be representing the Fairfield County Community Foundation. My role as executive director at the Odyssey Family Executive Center, we're focused on our mission to support families, and primarily in South Norwalk, who have been underserved and underrepresented. Families that have children from birth to 5, and providing support and services through our home visiting program, our workforce development program that gives individuals an opportunity to earn their CDA, to become an early childhood educator, because we know how, as well as offering support in areas of child development, and for new moms and new dads who are, trying to navigate their role of being a new parent. And in that same respect, I'm very excited that I am co-chair of our newly formed Soul Fund, which is our Black Giving Circle. We are having our inaugural event this evening. It is sold out, folks. But you can still please join and become a member. And much to what Althea said, just really fulfilling a need in this part of Connecticut, and representing and recognizing and supporting Black-led nonprofit organizations in this area, and building our community, building support, and also building and creating a cycle of success for our community at large. Thank you for having me today.
Julie, thank you for being here, and we'll come back to you. And Rodney, will you please?
Yes, hi. My name is Rodnina, or Rodney Hart. I am the Deputy Director of the Amistad Center for Art and Culture. And we are a museum within a museum. We are the scholars that protect and grow the Lindsley Simpson collection, which is the African American collection that is housed at the Wadsworth Museum. We have a strong sense of civic and community pride. We know that we're able to tell the story and hold the archives of so many that lived before us. Our mission is to honor, preserve, and celebrate the community and art, our cultural contributions for all people of African descent. And through the Black Giving Circle of Hartford, they've empowered us to put on different programs and educational initiatives that support that mission. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm originally from the South, and so a lot of my academic studies and background are all in Louisiana. I've worked in museums for 20 years and mostly history museums. So I hope that the insight that I can add is mostly about my time in Connecticut and how wonderfully we've been supported, but also with the knowledge that everything comes from all over, and the way that we move forward, just as that Sankofa model, is to synthesize all of our knowledge. So.
Rodney, thank you for that. So I just want everyone to just acknowledge we have a robust panel. We had from Nadia a powerful start. So let's just get right into it. One African saying, and forgive me, it's not coming to me clearly, but it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you really want to get stuff done and go far, go together. Althea, I'm going to put it up to you, and then Julianne. What is the benefit of the collaboration that comes out of giving circles?
I love that. I think for the power of giving circles, and I just think in general as a people, we're such richly talented and gifted individuals, resourced in a way that is not just about the kind of financial benefit that we all bring to the table, right? I think the again, the gifts and talents that we have allow us to create movement and momentum in ways that no other group of folks have. When we think about this whole reality now, I'm just going to go back to go forward in the spirit of the Sankofa theme. When we think about the bus boycott, we were doing Uber before Uber was a thing. We were doing Lyft before Lyft was a thing. We understood what it was like to have, they call it the walking school bus now. We understood that. We understood how to make cars available, bikes available, whatever that is. And I think that speaks to the rich sense of who we are, of being very collective in nature to make change, right? It is what embodies us in our movements. And we've seen that since then, prior to that, since then, and what we've seen in most recent times. So I believe that's the power of the collective when we come together. It's not just about who has the most amount of money to put on the table, but the power and richness and depth of our collective talents, gifts, and resources that are able to make change.
To go off of what Althea said, I agree. I think it goes farther than just financial. I do believe that as a community, we are so rich in our history, our generational expertise, the teachings, what we can learn from those who came before us. I grew up in New Haven, born and raised. And, the thing that I remember and think about the most is my grandmother and the beauty salon that she owned on the corner, the Black dry cleaners that was across the street, the Black shop, the store, the little corner store that was on the other end of the street. And from each place that I walked, there was a collective of aunties that were along that area that watched out for me, but also taught me. And I get to learn to live. That to me is what's at the heart of a Black giving circle. That is what it's about. The time, the camaraderie, the leaning into each other and supporting one another when times were difficult. Doors were not closed. Doors were always open. A plate was always given to someone who needed. A listening ear, again, that carpooling, we were doing carpooling long before it was even called carpooling, right? We were doing all of those things. And so I believe that is when we get and look at the history of Black circles, we were already setting those things up long before it was even given a title and a name. And I appreciate the fact that we are continuing that movement and bringing it forward. But also reminding people, and I think it's really important when we also talk about philanthropy, that it isn't about the money. It's really about what expertise are you able to bring also to the table, this collective group of different people who are like-minded in what they're thinking about in their mission and their vision. But you don't always have to come with a full wallet and a full bank account. What's your time? What's your expertise? What's your lessons that you can bring that we can all learn from, build of growth and support?
Julie, I think you're freezing a little bit. You're coming in and out. I'm sorry. So we got you. We got what you said. So you're good. But anyway, and Rodney, I want to present the same question to you, but I'm going to put a little twist on it since you opened up with, you have Southern roots. Help us remember, because most of us do have Southern roots. Help us remember what we may have forgotten about in terms of coming from Southern roots, because I remember growing up, every summer we went south, my family went south to my dad's home, and it was different
Yes.
because the experience of the
Yes.
community was so powerful. So help us remember from, your experience, what is the contribution?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the South is a unique place. In areas of the world that started opening up to Black people, the very recent memory of slavery, industrial and rural slavery, were very, very active. This required so many people to band together. There have always been systems in which we've supported each other. In post-Reconstruction and times of civil rights, there were uh, social clubs and pleasure centers, and these social clubs would band their money together. They would each take that Susus model of giving what they could, and that would ensure that there were recreational things for young people, that ensured that there were galas and balls, and people were able to really invest in music and the rich musical jazz traditions. That all comes from this banding together that happened in the South, but also burial culture to make sure that each person was dignified through life. And at that closing of life, it was so important that these kinds of things that could have been social and should have possibly been supported by the federal government, due to the history of discrimination and excluding Black people from so many accesses to power and funding, that we as a people band together and were able to give all of the dignities of life and to ensure that collectively everyone rose. There were also organizations to combat any of the discrimination in voting rights, and teaching people how to pass those very racist literacy tests, and doing marches. Right here, I'm in Louisiana right now, for some family issues, but I understand the longest march that happened in the civil rights movement happened in Bogalusa, Louisiana. There was a 200-mile walk from Bogalusa to the state capitol, and collectively, people marched. And one of the most significant things that I thought was that they honored not just the marchers, and not just the people who were on the front line, but those who supported them. The women who drove the vehicles that pulled the latrines, the families that made meals so that no one went hungry on this track. There was a wraparound support system So when you were sent down south to visit your country cousins, you would find that there was so much more and so much richness that may not have been monetary, but the value that was added is just so vast. And that is something that I'm so incredibly proud that this through line of supporting each other has always been. Before we came to America and all of the diasporic regions, this is something that's integral to our soul, that we support each other.
Rodney, thank you for that. You know, this is inspiring me. I'm supposed to be moderating, but I'm getting lit up. Okay, so because what you're pointing to that's really important is that the more we remember who we are, the more we remember what we grew up with, what our parents and grandparents grew up with, we then get in touch with who we have to be living into the future. And if nobody's paying attention, these times call for that more than ever. Julianne, talk to us. I think you said something about growing up in New Haven and the aunties that looked out for you. Um, what does that mean in terms of the experience of community that can actually empower us as a people?
I think it's really important when we think about the sense of community. I think I'll say this: growing up the way that I grew up, and having that sense, that village that was around me, knowing that if I did one thing before I even got back to my grandmother's house, she already knew what I already did, what I didn't do, what I said, what I didn't say, right? It is all about not being afraid to step up, and it's not about correcting someone in the I'm sorry, I'm breaking up again. But it was more about looking out for each other. It's about not being afraid to step up and speak out, about making sure that someone is okay. It was a level of respect and taking care of one another and not being worried about. I think some of the things that we worry about today as a community is, if you see something, we're supposed to see something, we say something. But I do think that nowadays that there is a reluctance and a hesitation sometimes to speak up and to speak out and in support of and looking out for one another. I want us to get back to that. To get back to that idea of it's all right to look out for the young ones, to have those aunties that because now I feel like I'm one of those aunties now, right? So, to be able to pass that information down, but doing it in a way that's non-judgmental. And I think that what happens or what has happened um, is that we tend to be a little judgmental. Well, if you only did it this way, this wouldn't have happened. Or if you thought about it this way, this never would have happened. And I think that there's a way that how we approach people, how we speak to one another, that's still supportive, that's still guiding, but then also respectful. And I think that's often how we are losing our younger generation. Like now I sound like a little OG woman, but I think the piece of it is really about how are we embracing our heritage and our history. How are we bringing our young people into the fold so that they feel that even though they may not have come up in the same way that we did, but that they still bring so much to the table, and making sure that we're embracing that again, their expertise, their knowledge, their passion. Those are things that we need to be drawing into to bring back that sense of community.
Thank you for that. And it's okay to be OG because if we forget OG, we're in trouble. And it's our job to bring that forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Get ready, Althea, because you're going to have to talk about how to bring it forward in order to keep it alive, sustainable. And if you want to put the church into it, you can, because I sort of know a little about that.
I appreciate that, Dr. Bailey. How do we bring it forward? And I appreciate you lifting that Julie. I was thinking back to when I grew up, and the opportunity for the particular position I have right now really leaned into that. I had the privilege of working in the city, being a daughter of Waterbury, to come back and share the richness of the village that cultivated the woman that I am, and having the opportunity to hopefully revive that back in the city of Waterbury. I think it's hugely critical that we give honor and homage, right, to those who shaped us. So when I think about some of those trailblazers who had no problem speaking truth to power, including my mama, right? She had no problem calling down the city hall and telling Mayor Bergen, you need to get up here and fix this pothole on my street, right? So I think, you know what I mean? And she, that's who she was. This stop sign is bent and they flying through. Like, so I think we, have to understand that there's power in our voice and and when we think about the OGs, when I think about the ones who shaped me, when I think about Muriel Moore, God rest her soul, a trailblazer in Head Start. When I'm a Head Start baby, went to one in the basement of the church, and at Zion Baptist Church in the city of Waterbury. So I think at the core of it, if I may, I appreciate you infusing faith in here. It is indicative and a characteristic of us. To quote scripture, what man meant for evil, God can use for good. The word was used in many ways to oppress and dehumanize us, but we flipped that thing and made it the very thing that sustained us and brought us through the tragedies, the trauma, and the horrific realities. And I didn't say religion, I'm saying that word in faith, right? Because I don't want to get into a religious debate about what denomination you are, who your pastor and your bishop is. That's not what we're here to talk about. But we're talking about that word that really kept us, that, hearing in Nadia talking about waiting. And I think in the power of the resilience of Black folks in this country. And I think by way of our walk and our collective being, I don't know, in the words of Dr. Terry Fry Brown, if you've seen Let the Church Say, the documentary she's from Emory, says, you can't separate the church and society. So for me, you can't separate faith and our being. I think it's so at the core of who we are. And when I think about, how we bring that forward, I think, we have to, for me, and if I can, I'm sorry if I'm digressing, but I think the power of just standing firm on who we are. I don't want to make this overly political, like what we see happening, wanting to change language that is indicative and in identifying who we are. We have to be okay with taking a position to challenge, a narrative. And support one another in that. And I think Waterbury, the giving circles are representative of that, to say, you know what, we're going to support one another, unapologetically, intentionally, in a way that's going to lift our community. So I think bringing it back to bring it forward is, I think we have to get back to that. Where as we are rising, right, we have to continue to keep our hands in the sand. I can't quite turn my head like the bird, right? That's the symbol of Sankofa. But as I am rising, right, I have to continually reach back as I'm reaching forward. So we have to do that. We have to bring young people in the fold. I think, what's his name? Damon John had it for us, by us. And we have to be okay with that. It doesn't mean we're going to lose, our position, our wealth, our nice suburban comforts, right? But we have to make sure we're willing to, because, those who came before us risked life and limb, to ensure we can have the privileges that we have today. It may not look the same in our movements today, and sometimes it does. But I think that's what it is. It's really about continuing to speak truth to power, but we can speak truth in love, and continue to make sure we keep the power, the presence, and the history before others, because it's necessary and needed, if we're going to continue to progress.
Wonderful, Althea. Althea, there was an observation, your sound is low, so I don't know
Tried to
if you need
shake.
to get closer to the mic or
Were
whatever.
you
But
able to hear me? I was trying to.
some
Yes.
some of us were, but
How is
we'll
that better?
oh yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I'm afraid to call on you again. You almost started preaching. Um, But you make a good point, because we do have to bring it forward to bring the young ones up. And what are we bringing them up to, or what are we ignoring that they are in it, unintentionally going to? We have to be mindful of that, And so with that in mind, my next question is about the giving circles. What are some of the possibilities that exist when we collectively focus on and give to a particular cause, issue, whatever, and giving circles do that? So Althea, I'm going to start with you, since you fix your mic. Um, what are some of the possibilities that come out of giving circles?
Oh, wow. I again, being one of the founding members of the Waterbury Black Giving Circle, I
A
think
little
it's
closer,
continuing.
please.
How is that? Is that better? I'll lean in. Is that better? Okay. As one of the founding members of the Waterbury Black Giving Circle, I think my mic is that, can you still hear me? I apologize. Um, it really was an opportunity to replicate what I had seen done, as Julie talked about. I think it's a great opportunity for us to come together, and focus on really supporting and undergirding some of the, we talked early on, the passion, the talents, the vision, the gifts, for so many of us who work hard in the trenches every day. I think about, there's one of our grantees, lady, Sharon Porter, who, who just shows up on the green and is giving out bread. She does that from her heart. How can we support that so that we continue to sustain our people? I think about the women of the North End Co-op, just speaking of our recent grantees and their efforts to bring us back to, we all know grandma had a garden in the backyard. My grandmother lived on Webb Street in the city of Waterbury's North End. We ain't have no backyard to play, but grandma had a garden in the back, right? So when it came time to cook something, you ran down and you pulled up some greens, you got on, you had to make sure you did it right. You pulled the pepper, you pulled some, as she said, tomatoes, right, to cut up with the, so we have to get back to those very core things. And the North End Co-op is one that's really bringing us back to that, those cultural things that resonate with us and have huge historical significance, and also gets at improving our health and well-being, because we're eating those very natural things that have cultural relevance and actually are very healthy. We was eating leafy greens before leafy greens was popular, right? That's what we do, right? So we got to take back those things that culturally that are ours, the cultural appropriation that has happened. We're not going to get into that, but we were doing a lot of these things when yams and all these things were what we ate, right? That kept us healthy and strong through some of the most challenging times. And so having the privilege to really support the gifts and talents of people in the city of Waterbury who are really looking to revive, right? A community of people who have made, history in some ways in that city. And we have some budding history makers right in the midst in the city of Waterbury. And I'm excited through the Giving Circle to really support that, to really transform lives of kids, families, and communities so that they can be, healthy and well, right? And that they can achieve, right, those divine things that they've been called to do, because somebody's life is depending on it, right? We hear that in the church, right? We overcome by the power of our testimony. In that same way, somebody's prayer will be answered because the person we've invested in, right, through these giving circles is going to change that life that they've yet to know that they're about to touch because we've made that investment. That's the power of the giving circles.
I love it. Thank you. And it goes even further than that, because I think one of the other elements of the giving circle is, like, if I'm in at a low level, I'm sitting next to a person who might be in at a high level. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because in that circle of giving, we are in community. And that's the power. Rodney, please weigh in on this if you can. What about that communal aspect of giving circles? And it may not be, connected with your work, but talk about it.
Absolutely. It is a strong African tradition that we pool our resources and support important initiatives, individuals, and for the greater good of all. and sometimes the greater good of the one that we know will persevere and will ultimately be able to give back to our community. We're extremely fortunate that the Hartford Foundation Black Giving Circle Fund, they were able to identify an epidemic in our community, that Black men and boys were undertreated, were looked over, were not centralized in the conversation around mental health. And they put out funds, made granting funds available that each community organization could reach out to, could present a presentation to try to get these funds. And the Amistad Center was fortunate enough to do so. Now, you may think, like, what does a museum have to do with Black men and boys' mental health? Well, that really sparked a conversation of what can that mean? How can we support this effort within our limited mental health capacity? We were able to put on 3 large programs, or we will be. One was that we brought in an artist, Titus Kafar, and his film, Exhibiting Forgiveness. We were able to partner with the Brother Carl Hardwick Foundation. And with that, this initiative, we made a I'm a Man, Black Men and Boys mental health initiative. These funds provided support in a real, tangible way that the museum, with our social cachet, our access, our large pool of people, that we were able to engage with others who would not have entered into that space otherwise, and to let people know broadly that we are an active part of the community and that we're here to help meet the needs where we can. We were able to also put on a comedy night that's coming next month. We're going to do a full, and we're going to center mental health, mental illness, and learning disabilities through a Black man, Rob Santos, who is a comedian. We're taking tragedy, we're adding time, we're adding community and hilarity. We're also doing a day-long wellness workshop. And we're bringing in a person who is a Babalawo, a Yoruba practitioner, but also has a degree in therapy here in the States. And he is able to decentralize the way that people understand mental wellness and health, and not have it centered in this white land owning centralized view. This is something that we were able to do, that we were empowered to do because of the funds and the opportunity given by a Black Black Giving Circle. And these kinds of initiatives are exactly what the Amistad wants to do, exactly how we're able to identify these larger issues that may not have been on our radar, but because the fund, the individuals who were able to identify this issue were also able to support, just as they did on slave plantations, just as they did in hair salons and churches. And we have a history of identifying issues and then engaging the community in broad ways to help come up with ways to resolve that actually move the needle, that make a difference. And I can post dates in the chat later.
Okay. Oh, you're going to put the date in the chat because it came up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. What about tickets? Oh, no. I'll talk to you later about that. Julianne, talk to us about, well, before I get to you, Julianne, hold on. I just want to recap a little bit of what you pointed out, Rodney. One of the things that Brian Stevenson, who, many folks know, one of the things that he says is that you have to be proximate to the problem. And if we in our giving circles are not proximate to what the felt experience is that is screaming for expression, then, what's it all about? That's the power of a giving circle, because these folks are right there with the issue. They know it. And it's similar to the point that you make about mental health with Black men and boys. Um, The Invisible Egg, the book by, why am I blanking on his name? Dr. Smith. Beautiful, beautiful book about mental health issues for with Black men. And it's a powerful book, and it speaks exactly to this. But being close to the problem, being close to the issue, helps to inform how the giving happens, how the interventions take place, because we who are close to it can speak to it because we're living it. We're living it. All right, Julie, if you could talk about what's going on in your giving circle. Julie?
I'm sorry, Dr. Bailey, I froze. Can you ask the question again? I apologize.
Sure, not a problem.
Of all days to have technical issues, this is not the
No,
day.
it happens. No, we're just glad you're here, and we will
I
work through it.
appreciate that.
We will work through it. Talk about your giving circle and what's happening with it, and,
Yes.
some of the work behind it.
Well, I'm so excited, and especially after listening to Rodney and Althea, and how they have been been a part of their giving circles, how it came to be. Our giving circle came to be from just last year at this very moment in time. I was at a listening party. Dr. Bailey, I was listening to you, moderate an amazing panel for Black Philanthropy Month, and listening and hearing about the power of giving circle, the power of philanthropy. And when when it was over, the group that remained became the 9 of us, that became this steering committee, this leading the path in this group, that said, we need to have this. This is what we need to be doing. Why is there not one down here in Fairfield County? Where is it? Where has it gone? And we're so blessed and lucky, with the leadership from Mendy, and Fairfield County Community Foundation. Her leadership, her guidance, her support is really what has then helped to move us in this forward direction, and allowing us to lean in, and having this collective of people who are about all of the things that Althea and Rodney have been talking about, what we're talking about here today. This sense of community, the sense of breaking, being a part of and experiencing the things that these Black-led organizations are going through and dealing with, what's happening in our community, whether it is mental health, food security, housing, education. These are all of the things that, we all know, we all see it, we all know that it's happening. And then instead of feeling helpless, let's be intentional in what we're doing, to rise above it, to help people rise through it, and then being able to support and grow. And so just incredibly proud that we are in the very infant stage of our circle, but excited for the things to come, because it is the power of the collective group. And with that, we are going to be able to make just as much great strides as the other amazing circles, the Black giving circles that are in the state of Connecticut.
Julie, thank you for that. And one of the things you can count on is the network of folks that are part of this panel, that are part of this organization that pulls this together. You gave me acknowledgement for last year. I'm just a moderator, okay? However, the work is so much larger, so much more important. And when I hear of the formation of a giving circle coming out of this work in Fairfield, that is so inspiring, because I'm not here for me. We're not here for New Haven. And the diaspora has us everywhere. And that's the work range. That's our region, everywhere we are. It's a big region, but we are up to the task. We are up to the task. Excellent, excellent. So, what is in the future? What are we bringing into the future? Because we could talk about all that we got from our aunties, grandma, and things like that. We have to come to grips with the fact that we are now the uncles and aunties. We have to identify and take ownership for, I was a knucklehead. I'll admit it, when I was coming up, we have to take responsibility for those knuckleheads that are out there now. Do they still make knuckleheads? You bet they do. But somebody's going to have to put their arm around the shoulder of a young one, pull them in, pull her in, and be a solid rock for where they are not moored, they are not grounded. What does the future look like, especially given giving circles? So, I mean, we could go after the young ones that are going to be making it anyway. We know they're going to make it. We can enhance that for them. And there are those who borderline. So, Althea, let's start with you. What are we doing?
Well, I think we got to give them a space at the table, right? I know we come from a culture that says, stay in the kid's place, right? But I think we got to still make some room for them at the table and hear from them and make them a part of the process. It sounds, hearing from these powerful women who are on this panel with me, we all have those experiences where, we've been a part of something. I want to say when we were young, I think about, my organizing, learning about that happened when I was 12 years old, and I was able to do phone banking and outreach for, at that time, State Representative Maurice Mosley for the 72nd District, and understood that sitting in the community room at Lambda Row Apartments on Bishop Street in Waterbury. So I will never forget what that touch means, right? And so seeing that he felt like there was value in young people being a part of his process has forever stayed with me. So I think we have to give them some room at the table and give some credence to their voices, even the ones we might be named as knucklehead, right? We need to know what they need, and right, we need to stop feeling like we can determine what that is and hear from them. The other piece that I think is hugely critical, let's take a look around. We had those photos of who's leading philanthropy in the state now. We are at a moment in time that we cannot miss this. Let's not just celebrate the photos and positions that they hold, but celebrate the power and influence and the ability that these great men and women have at this point to really make and shift and make a difference in this state around this work. And I think we have to be okay. I think this generation is fine with being who they are, good, bad, or indifferent, and we have to get back to being okay to say, I'm Black and I'm proud, right? I'm Black and I'm proud, and we got to be okay to do that. There's a level of pride that comes with that, and we have to model that for these young folks, and then when we show that level of confidence and assurance, I think we'll get them to follow us, because they're looking for folks who are credible, right? They want to make sure you're authentic. It's always like, are you authentic? But I think, just being real about who we are, not just expressing this because of the position that we hold. It's not easy. As someone who had to kind of, one of the first projects I did in my role at Bridge to Success was to commission a work from Chimay Morales James called Let's Talk About Race, raising children with a positive racial and ethnic identity, right? So that was the first project. We got to be willing to get back to that. And you know what? Philanthropy stood up and supported that. And, one of the other leaders, I'm not sure why, but, when I think about the Grouse Time, they supported that. And there's great work happening over there and leadership there. And we have, a Black woman, leading that work as well. But also to know at the core of us, and I just want to celebrate this, benevolence is characteristic of the Black experience. It is who we are. We can't separate ourselves from that. And so I think we have to celebrate that and lift that, because at the end of the day, from the time and forever, we've only had each other. So I think we have to share that with young people, model that, and show them the impact of demonstrating that and being a part of that. So those are my 2 cents, and I'm sticking with that.
Thank you, Rodney.
And it's important in thinking about the future that we understand that philanthropy, yes, can be financial, but we're also talking about the connection between philanthropy and cultural preservation, funding, supporting Black arts, history, heritage, culture. It ensures that these stories, these things remain in our future. You know, working in museums, this has been a vital part of our archives, this primary source information, ensuring that it's shared with everyone. And the point of this, it celebrates, yes, financial giving, but not just financial giving, but sharing culture, wisdom, and lived experience, artistic dimensions, and identifying different ways of generosity and resilience and empowerment that we share with all of our forms of art and creativity and community. We're nurturing souls, we're building community, we're doing the good and the important work that if we did not get these funds, if we were not able to foster this conversation, that would be lost. So Black voices, we have to redefine what it means to have wealth. It can't cosplay whiteness and that structure of power because we've never had that degree and that amount of funds and power. So we have to think in an ingenious way of what makes us so wonderful. How can we continue to carry on legacy? What are the foundational things that are needed to see the same kinds of opportunities that exist now in our future generations? That's constantly going to change, but it's also steeped in understanding our history and why it's so important that we've always had pride in our of place, pride in ourselves, pride in our community, that we've only been separated from our value if we allow society to separate us. So we build each other up because we need to, we have to. That is how we survive in a world that was never planned for us to be anything but enslaved people. And it's not a them versus us. We've always had people who were supporting that did not look like us. We've always had community that did not come from where we're from. But it's more essential that we identify our brothers and our sisters and our neighbors in a very broad and generous way to ensure that they can continue to be our brothers, neighbors, and sisters,
Carmen, yes.
and that we can do what is necessary to make things good.
Thank you. Rodney, thank you for that. First of all, powerful statement about what fulfilling on that obligation to youth can actually provide and what it could bring forward. We have a lot of good content in the chat, and many folks are actually reaching out to say they want to be a part of the Fairfield Community Foundation's Giving Circle. Julianne, it's not just about you. Stop it. And there are other interests. We will follow up with that. Carmen will do a listing, and we will follow up on each one of those requests. And let's see, in a minute or so, we're going to do Q&A. So if you have any questions, we have some questions here. And I think I know we have from our watch party here some questions. And who else has a watch party? There may be questions in the other watch party. So if whoever is managing that could actually put them in the Q&A section so that they could be managed, that would be helpful. So that we could spend the last, we're going to 1:15 and we're gonna, start the Q&A at about 5 after. All right. Excellent. And so let me just throw out one of my fantasies. One of my fantasies is we heard about, Greenwood and Tulsa and how it was a thriving community that was burned down. And we hear about the great work that's happening with the Black Wall Street movement, not only in New Haven, but across the country. What would that look like? Because this consciousness of giving around giving circles can actually be the underpinnings for that. And this is just like a little quick visionary moment. Julianne, what would that look like to have a Tulsa here in Connecticut, down in Fairfield County somewhere? What would that look like? And get ready out there. You're next, and then you know who's coming after her.
Oh, wow. What would that look like? Um, it would look like collective support. It would look like building on a foundation that we've all talked about this afternoon. Building on generational foundation, learning from mistakes, um, using those historical contexts to then build up and thrive from that. It's embracing where we are now. It's going back to something you said, Dr. Bailey, about our youth, and Althea touched on it also. But it is really about bringing everyone to the table. Everyone has a seat at the table, and I think where historically, where may have been mistakes and errors, whereas that not everyone was allowed at the table. And so it really is about finding and understanding where people fit and allowing them to grow and thrive. It's planting the seeds and helping people nurture and grow. I think what happens often, especially with our younger generation, is that we, as sort of the older folks, we are so entrenched in sort of our belief, our vision, and our mission that we don't allow enough room for our young people to then be able to feel that they have a voice and that their voice is important in order to help us grow. And so I think to have, our Black Wall Street in this part of Connecticut or in anywhere in Connecticut, it's really about being intentional in how we are growing our community, and making sure that we are embracing what our young people are bringing to the table. We are in such a unique time where we live in that, just even in this moment, this webinar is being recorded, right? So everything that we're saying, we didn't always have that. So the fact that, there are things that are happening in real time that we can capture and learn from and grow from and be able to then pivot and turn at a moment's notice, that's incredibly monumental for how we can then begin to grow the types of communities that you are envisioning and that we all want to see, Dr. Bailey.
Okay, great. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. I think, Althea, you're up.
Yeah, and I know we're out of time. So I want to piggyback off that. I think Julie said what was very, very on
A little
point.
bit louder out there.
How is that? Can you hear me now? Is that
Yes.
better? So I think Julie said it perfectly. The piece I would add is that we need a collective vision for our communities. I think we have to, stop doing our own work in our own separate corners and try to adopt a collective vision for our communities. I think that has to happen, and we have to be willing to agree to disagree on some points and issues. The other thing is, to the point back early on, Dr. Bailey, the Black church has got to step back up. It started, a lot of the act when we think about, change and shifts in our community, the Black church was at the forefront of it. We got to get out of our beautiful edifices that we've created. We got to get off of social media platforms, and get outside and get engaged. We got to get back into the thick of things, because that's when the change will happens, when we come truly in community with each other, not just because we're following each other, not just because we're liking posts, but really linking arms, person to person, and moving that collective vision for change and transformation, where we can reestablish, because those Black Wall Streets are not just dreams afar, right? We know Julian talked about it, right? In her, I lived that in a community like that. The Masons owned a corner store. Veronica Dancy had the laundromat. Terry had the pool hall and barbershop across the street. Like, these were communities where, Schoolboy had a dress shop, right? This was all within the neighborhood where I lived. So those places are not dreams. They are realities that we have to revive, and with a collective vision, and movement together, we can restore that and revive that with even greater impact.
Althea, thank you. And Rodney, please.
And so, just as these amazing ladies mentioned, it takes a resiliency. It takes community and listening, and being responsive to the real world issues that we have. It's, of course, planning for the future as well as we can. There's no way we could have predicted the world we'd be in right now. But there's always been a need to be prepared for the future world that we will be in. Building our communities and our networks now, understanding our strengths and how they can interfold within each other, and lifting up voices, understanding that we're stronger together. These things were always important to our growth as a community, and they will be vital in our future. We're looking at unprecedented times, and it takes banding together and listening to all voices to be able to get to the other side of it and thrive, not just survive it, but to thrive.
Rodney, thank you. One of the things that comes to mind that is so really palpable to me is that saying, especially for young people, you can't be it unless you see it. And until we are able to provide an image, a vision of that which can be, and we're not providing a pathway or a vision or a way to get there. We have a sense of it, but are we passing that on? So there's some questions that have come in. And in the Q&A, we're going to spend the last few minutes with those Q&As. Oh, Erica, you have the label of Ryan.
Yes, I am Erica Bradley, though. So I do have a few questions. One I think is really important for this conversation. Someone asked, can you explain what a giving circle is?
So rather than me take it, Julianne, you want to handle that since you just started? Yours is the baby.
Yes. So, it's really in its simplest form, is really bringing together, a group of people, who are like-minded in their goals and in their vision and their mission, as a way of making social change. And for so long, we've seen giving circles, or we've seen programs that have been founded and supported and financially growing in other types of communities. But this is now an opportunity, more than ever, for the Black community to begin to, for us to collectively come together, and bring our time, our talent, our finances, and our expertise. And so that's really, at its most simplest form, is really pouring in all of those collective things, and forming a circle, and forming that circle, which then allows us, to then pour into our community, to bring about those types of programs, and support that Rodney talked about in her wonderful events that are coming up, and what Althea talked about that's happening in her community, and being able to have, you know, a farmer's market or a mental health initiative for men, or an event for teen nights. That is where a collective giving circle comes from.
Thank you. Let's see. What is the difference between a giving circle and a foundation?
All right, I'll take that. Actually, Erica, you could have taken that too. A foundation actually is the repository where all these funds are collected and invested to actually get the best return on the investment, and what's generated from that investment goes out to do the work. A giving circle is a fund within that collective of other funds. Foundations usually have a multiple number of funds in them. At the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, I believe we probably now have over 1,000 individual funds. Many of them are named for families and things like that, but that's the difference.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. In light of the ruling regarding the Fearless Fund and their foundation, what's the future of Black philanthropy and giving circles?
Well, unless any of the panelists have any thoughts on it, because that's a thorny issue. And I'm not sure I have the legal background. I know I don't have the legal background or knowledge to address it, because it's complicated. Yes, I think I'm going to take a pass on that.
Maybe what we can do is
Friend?
do a little bit of research and send out some information that we find. How's that, Dr. Bailey?
Absolutely, we could do.
Okay. Um, I love the idea of giving circles and would love to learn more about them. Are giving circles appropriate for mentoring programs or sports organizations?
Althea, you're shaking your head. Speak to it.
No, I appreciate that question. We haven't had sports organizations come to us. I think for us, it's really a focus in on Black-led nonprofits, and that the folks that they're impacting, the majority of the folks that they're impacting, are individuals from Black communities, or those who identify as Black. Are So yeah, I would say it would depend on the mission and vision and the focus of the particular giving circle. They may choose to support athletics as a way of building leadership skills, or really supporting a particular community. But I think that's the unique and fun nuance of giving circles, is that it really drives the focus of the investments and the resource, how they use the resources in the community. I know for us, in addition to providing grants to emerging grassroots and established nonprofits, we also provide a scholarship to what they call future leaders. And I know Kathy or Talitha may be on here, but really supports Black students and their futures. And so that's a very intentional scholarships that are given annually to Black students. So I think, again, I'm answering you, Erica, it's really about the focus and intention, mission, and vision of the particular giving circle and how it wants to make its investments.
Thank you very much. I do want to acknowledge a question that's in the Q&A. It's specifically for the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. So the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven will address this, whether now or at a later date. But the question is, what's the Black Giving Circle at the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven? There's been a lot of work there out of the pandemic, the Vineyard Project, Black Futures Fund. Is there a giving circle? And how does New Haven address this? And I can say that we do have a lot of things in the works, and a lot of initiatives that we do have underway. And so that will be addressed. And I don't know if Dr. Bailey, if you want to say anything further, but I appreciate that question, and we will definitely address it. And we'll,
Absolutely. No, you nailed it, and it's a work in progress.
okay. And
Last question, because we're out of
okay.
time.
Last question. Prior to the civil rights era and beyond, much of the organizing was done in the church. And I think Althea spoke to some of this. In your opinion, what is the role of the church today, and where is organizing happening in your region?
I welcome others to join me in this, including Dr. Bailey. I think the church has to, take its place again. I think it's hugely critical. Every church should have a plan of action around organizing to, transform the very community where it is, right? The scripture tells us, what you've done unto the least of these, you've done unto me. We are our brother's keeper. I can probably pull a number of them out with regard to what the role and intention is of our faith communities. If we don't want to use the word church, it is our intention to give one to another. So I think the church has to, again, as I said, come out of these beautiful edifices and really get back into the work. The work, Sunday is for when you get your booster to go back out Monday through Saturday, to each one reach one. That's really what Sunday is for. Your prayer meeting is to give you what you need, and then Bible study, so you have the word and all that you need to share out. But the church has to take its place. The power of it has been, and historically will be, to transform lives. And so whether that's my call in or call out, that the church has to show up. We need it. It's necessary. We have some talented, gifted, and as Julie said, we have to bring that time, talent, and treasure back to these communities right outside of our doors. Imagine the change that could happen if the 5 or 6 church, in some cases there's 10 and within a 1-mile radius, right, all came together for change and transformation. Again, benevolence is at the core of who we are. We all have either a ministry of kindness, building fund, benevolent fund. Imagine if those resources came together, what change could happen. So yeah.
So I just want to first of all thank the panelists for a wonderful, wonderful contribution, and thank each and every one of our guests that are online, the guests that are in listening sessions, wherever they are. We have a number of them out there. This has been a fabulous, fabulous experience of time, and I hope you found value in your time here. So thank you. Ryan?
What is there left to say? Thank you all so much for being with us. Thank you, Dr. Bailey, for facilitating so masterfully. Going back to where we started, our great thanks to Nadia Sims for a beautiful poem. And I should say greetings from Fairfield County's Community Foundation. I am Ryan Deal. Erica is posing as Ryan Deal, however that happened. Thank you so much. 2 quick things before you sign off. When you close the meeting, you will get a prompt for an evaluation. We would love for you to take 2-3 minutes and fill that out before you leave. And secondly, we'll be in touch, I think, in about a week with a follow-up email, which will include a recording from today's event. And so you'll have that to look forward to share with friends or to remember for yourself. Greetings and a wonderful Tuesday to all of you. Happy Black Philanthropy Month. And Dr. Bailey saying one more thing.
Yeah, one final point. For folks who were in listening sessions and they may not have gotten a link to the questionnaire, the evaluation, that will be sent out with the recording. And so please, if you're in a listening session and you'd like to provide feedback for the collective, that we've come together to do this, that would be great. Okay, thank you.